more traditional Gatorade, Powerade, what's actually on the courses, you know. Those sugars are the same types of sugar that they put in all of the bars and chews and all that. I think a lot of people are getting away from that and choosing more natural ways. I was reading an article today about Gatorade, and they were providing alternatives to sport drinks, and I can email you guys the different suggestions, but certain foods that you can pull from. One was like banana almond milk, and then something else added in, provided a similar electrolyte amount that a sports drink would. The new, something along those lines are pretty good. There's a sweetener in that, you know, that was but yeah, salt stick, that kind of thing is just the capsule. So there's a lot of different options. Okay, so for during nutrition, your objective is to spare your storage carbs to use for energy later. So if you burn through all your carbs right away, then you need to take more in, which can lead to, not always, but can lead to upset stomach. It's hard to, I think certain parts of the race are harder to eat for most people to run. They don't want to be eating a ton of solid food on the run. That's sometimes upsetting. So if you can be more efficient at using your fat stores instead of switching to carbohydrate, that's ideal. Maintain optimal blood glucose and fuel workout. So your insulin is suppressed during exercise anyways, so you don't have to worry too much about the food combinations I'm talking about with the protein, fat, carb. You're not worrying about that as much during, because your body is primarily using carb during, so that's what you need to be focused on. Since your insulin suppressed too, you don't need to worry about, you know, spikes, blood sugar spikes. So when to eat, you refuel with primarily carbohydrates, sports products, or, and these were the question marks, you know, for a lot of people, sports products work. For people that want a more natural approach to it, there are foods that do the same things. So, and then a lot of the products are starting to trying to get closer to more natural too. Honey Stinger, for example, instead of using a maltodextrin, or using, you know, dextrose, fructose, whatever they call it. Honey is the first ingredient, and then they may have another sugar in there, but they're trying to get a little bit closer to natural sugar types. There is another product, Scratch Labs. Their electrolyte mix is really good, and it is a really mild flavor, and it uses table sugar. And so it really just depends on how your body responds.
Sorry, what was that?
The product,
yeah.
Scratch Labs.
Oh.
So it comes in like a little bag. Is anyone familiar with that? Yeah. So that was a cyclist and then a chef that came up with the idea behind Scratch Labs products. They're nice because when you start looking at sport products, some of the brands are a laundry list of ingredients this long, and you're like, what the heck is that? Like, at least me, I'm like, ew, I don't know what all that stuff is. A lot of the products are really trying to become more, trying to eliminate a lot of the junk, you know, really. They have 4 or 5 ingredients in there that you really need, so Scratch Labs is good with that. I feel like Honey Stinger is better at that than Power than some of the more traditional brands. So the recommendation during nutrition, it's always been this, the 30 to 60 grams per hour. Where it differs now a little bit, obviously with Hart's finding and some of the other research that's being done is, what do I need to do? Like, if I eat a substantial amount in the morning, meal, snack, whatever, and I'm going out for a 3-hour ride, do I need to be fueling at 45 minutes to an hour? Because I kind of just ate, you know, or I ate within an hour. So for that, it's kind of pushing yourselves, and here's where you do some trial and error, and you say, okay, if I'm used to fueling at 45 minutes, I'm going to fuel at 60 minutes and see how I feel. And then I might push that back to 75 minutes, and 90 minutes, and see how you feel. If you feel like you're bonking, then you maybe have less, you know, glycogen stored up, and so you do need to be fueling closer to the original recommendation, but this was always 45 minutes to 60 minutes. Now it's like, push it back a little bit. See if your body can handle that and still function efficiently.
I have friends that literally will take in no calories in a 2-hour run.
Really?
I just don't know how they can. I don't know how they can do it.
there's all different extremes of people, you know. There are people that can take in 40 calories per hour for an Ironman. And then there are people that take in 600, you know, like it's just a huge span. So, the 30 to 60 grams of carb per hour, just to give you a point of reference, of 30 grams of carb is roughly a gel, maybe a little less, right around there. So this has been the long-standing recommendation. Bob Seebehar would say, no, 10 to 30 grams of carb per hour. To figure out calories from grams, you just multiply the number by 4. So 120 for that 30 to 60.
Does he say that should be your only calorie source at that point too?
Carbohydrate. Yeah,
or is he, okay.
You can, it also comes down to, yeah, he pushes the limit of what's the minimal amount that you can take in. So that's why I don't have it 10 to 30 on here. I think that's pretty conservative. I don't know if that's possible for, I mean, maybe highly trained athletes can do that and function fine. I think right in the 30 range is pretty good.
Are there any, I don't know if this leads off topic at all, but I know that with the closer you are to your threshold, your anaerobic threshold, the more you start to actually burn fat versus carbohydrate. Is he starting to push in any way, shape, or form that you should be training it closer to that zone so that you're teaching your body to more effectively burn fat for longer, or?
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. So zones 1, 2, and 3, when you're in aerobic, you're burning fat. When you get to anaerobic, you burn carbs. So the metabolic efficiency is how can you burn fat for the longest period of time before you switch over and you start burning that precious carbohydrate. So the nutrition side of metabolic efficiency, we've talked about a little bit. The training side of it is actually doing interval training and pushing your threshold up further. So you have all of this, you have your heart rate zones right here, and right here is where you switch over and you start burning carbohydrate. Okay? So that's not very much right here. Versus if you push it out, so the less you burn carbohydrate, the more fat you burn before you switch over. So it's definitely a big part of it. You also asked about, is he just saying carbs? He does say protein to a small extent. So it would be, not the amount of carb he would be.
You went forward a few slides when you were drinking.
Oh, yeah, this is I thought you guys were like getting bored.
No, I was just trying to help. Sorry, I'll be quiet.
Thank you. I would have been confused. I'm like, wait a minute.
So you're like, okay, that's the presentation, thanks, bye.
How did I end up on that one?
I know, I'm like, I know, it's hot in here. I must have worked out for a few slides.
Is there a point at which you need to start adding protein?
Yeah, the protein, so if you're looking at 30 grams of carb per hour, protein is generally in the range of like 4 to 10.
Yeah.
So it's a smaller fraction of it. With protein, my opinion is, with this example right here, so peanut butter, you have obviously the banana's carbohydrate. Peanut butter is not just carbohydrate. You have the other macronutrients in there, so it's okay to add it. From a GI perspective, adding a lot of protein, you may end up, I don't know, everything can upset, your stomach, depending on what type of, how your stomach reacts to certain things. But protein is generally recommended for longer training sessions and longer races. That's where you really need it. Of course,
So probably not in the first couple hours, but if you're doing a longer thing then.
Yeah. But I guess my thing is, if I have it in the first couple hours, it's not like in small amounts at least, not like, you don't need like a whey protein shake or anything like that. You're okay. But yeah, as far as adding it in as time progresses. I don't know exactly as far as calories go, but I feel okay with that. So these are just 2 examples that fall within that range. So again, you have for the sport product, and then we have the real food example. When to drink, this is the range that we were talking about. So a really good way to assess this is your urine color when you get back. If your urine color is like lemonade, then you're good. And maybe you've only had 12 ounces of water for the hour, and you're okay. So if you get back and it's fine, doesn't mean, oh my gosh, I need to go ahead and double that. It means that your body is fine with that amount. If you get back and it's more like apple juice color, then you really need some more, you need to be taking in more. So it's a really easy indicator. Now during a race with porta potties, I don't know how that would work out, but you can at least try during training to figure out. So, okay. So here I want to break down a little bit between the distances, and we've talked a little bit about this, but so I pulled from, this was Mountain Man a few years ago, and so I pulled the first 3 distances from that and showed the ranges of time it took for people to finish from the first to the last. So for a sprint triathlon, the amount of time you're going to be out there, you don't need anything besides water. Electrolytes, if it's, you know, electrolytes are, we'll put it this way, it's not a bad idea to include electrolytes. You don't need to go crazy with it because it's not enough time to really, you know, get into a scary situation unless it's, you know, crazy hot and sweaty and whatever. So for the sprint, you're fine with that. You really don't need to incorporate any food. With the Olympic, it really depends on the amount of time it's taking. So whatever you determine during training, if it's, you find out that you need fuel after 90 minutes, then start at 90 minutes, you know, and do your, 30 gram of carbohydrate. That's, again, kind of right in the middle of the original range, and Bob Seahar's high end of his range, but not a bad place to start. Within the Olympic, most people will probably need to fuel at some point, although I know plenty of people that don't, and so it just comes down to what you feel comfortable with. Top Ironman, you're definitely going to want to start fueling all the different choices. There's, you know, you can go with the sport products, you can go with real foods, you can go with liquids, you can go with solids, all that you kind of have to play around with and see what works for you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So what do you think about absorption? Because the absorption time is quite different from a solid food to a liquid. I mean, you absorb the liquid a lot faster, which is why sometimes there's more distress. What do you think about mixing them, or, I mean, you're going to get a faster effect if you have a liquid electrolyte or carbohydrate versus something that you want to stay with you a little bit longer.
Right.
So how do you kind of...
That's why I say I think that there's a place for the sport products, and I do think they're nice from that perspective. Some of the foods, like a banana, for example, is a quickly absorbing carbohydrate, as quickly as a gel will. You know, so a combination usually works well.
Would you alternate them even,
Yeah,
maybe?
that's what I did, yeah. I
Yeah.
alternated, I used Honey Stinger products, and I alternated with real food. And for me, that works. But within the sport products, I think the biggest takeaway is just look what's in it. Just look what's in it, compare different things. I'm gonna throw Power Bar under the bus right now, but they need to be, because that was the example. If you hold a Power Bar, what's their marathon energy?
Oh, that horrible energy bar that's got like chocolate crap
Yeah,
on
or
it.
Triple Threat, I think is the other one.
Yeah.
You hold one
Yeah.
of those, and you hold, like
It's a
in my
candy bar.
store, one of our cleaner bars that I'm proud to sell is Macro Bar, and you look at the ingredients, it is ridiculous, the difference. You're like, oh my gosh, I know everything that's in this one. I know up to ingredient 3 of what's in this one, you know? And there are, I do another seminar actually, and I'm trying to remember what bar, maybe a Power Bar. There's like 5 different sugar sources. You're like, really? 5 different sugar sources, like a sweetener, high fructose corn syrup, you know, this and that. So this transfers over to everyday eating too. Look at what's in the